Hello, my name is Ian Bratt and I am the CEO of MonyWize. And I'd like to take a few moments to share with you the MonyWize software product. We have an introductory opportunity to review an analysis of your personal circumstances, which is free, which will give you an idea of the difference that this software could make in your lifestyle. We use the example of Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer. Here they are with their family. They have a friend, and their friend's name is Jim. And Jim has suggested to them that they complete the free analysis chart. You can see if you go to the website that there is a tab for the free analysis. Every MonyWize associate has their own personal URL web address. Jim's address is jim.moneywise.com, and it uses his username Jim. If you are an associate, please make sure that you give people your unique web address. Everybody has a unique address. Now you can see at the bottom of the screen there we have a picture of the free analysis, and it's split into two separate and distinct sections. On the left we have mortgage, and on the right we have debt, consumer debt. Let's check out a mortgage. This is a mortgage of Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer. What I would point out to you is you can see that there are squares there where they can enter information in those fields. And next to each there is a question mark. And if you were to hover your mouse over the question mark, it would give you an explanation for the type of information that is being requested to perform this analysis and to use this tool. So we have Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer. The remaining balance on their mortgage, on their loan, is $175,000, and they're currently paying an interest rate of 5.5%. Now this is a new mortgage, and so they have 30 years to pay it off. Their monthly repayment on that mortgage is $1,075. Now between them, Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer, they have a combined monthly income of take-home pay of $7,200. The next line is their monthly expenses, excluding their mortgage payment. So this is all their utilities, their living costs, everything that it costs them to their outgoings and their expenses on a monthly basis, excluding the mortgage repayment. And they have calculated that to be $5,781. Now you can also see that their property is valued at about $250,000. And then finally at the bottom of the page there, we ask them to enter their name and an email address, and then click the Submit button. What they get is a comprehensive, customized and bespoke report. And I'm actually going to split that screen into two so that we can break it down. So let's look at the top of the screen. The top of the screen confirms their loan balance is $175,000, the interest rate of 5.5%, term of 30 years. It shows their income, it shows their expenses, and it shows the mortgage repayment. We'll also see that the estimated value of the property is $250,000, and so they are actually lending 70% of the value of the property, which means they have 30% equity, which is reasonable. Now, our software platform, if we use the software platform to its fullest extent, Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer would expect to pay off their home in 16 3/4 years. And I think you'll agree with me that's a significant improvement on 30 years. And because they are paying off the loan quicker, they are not falling victims to compound interest, and so they're going to save a total of $89,445 in interest. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me that paying the mortgage off in less than 17 years is incredibly attractive based on the set of circumstances of this couple. It's fair to say that all people's situations and circumstances are unique to them, and so the results that you may have achieved may be better, it may be worse. But the point being is, it certainly won't be the 30 years that you're currently lending from your bank or whatever financial institution is funding your purchase. Let's look at the bottom half of this example here. This is a really useful graphical display. It's reasonable because we can see that the arc of the graphs that are shown are very informative to us. On the left-hand side, there's a scale for the amount of money outstanding. Running left to right on the bottom, we can see 30 years, and this loan was actually taken out in 2016. We see three lines on the graph. We see three arcs and trajectories. The red line is the traditional method, the regular mortgage over a 30-year period. And we can see that that arc smoothly reduces. Now, I'll point out it's not a direct line. It is an arc because in the beginning, you're paying a lot of interest and not really eating into the capital. This is the compounding interest effect. So that's what most people have, a 30-year mortgage. Using our software, people could see a much swifter result. The blue line shows how we can use some of their discretionary income and make additional payments to their mortgage balance and therefore pay off the balance swifter. And you can see that blue line shows that that mortgage is going to be paid off in 16 3/4 years. Now, if the value of the property is still very healthy, we can see that after 16 years, or 16 3/4 years, they owe nothing to the bank. Then the great news is that if they are used to spending that $1,075 per month in terms of their debt repayment, then starting in year 16 3/4, if they continued to spend the same amount of money on an investment over the remaining period, over the 14 years to net out to the total of 30 years, which was the original loan, then they could see wealth accelerating in an investment. And that's what that green line represents for us. It says that reasonable rate of return, it would be highly possible for them to earn around $93,000 in terms of an investment. Now, clearly they would be using a financial advisor to assist them, but that is a reasonable rate of return. So what does MonyWize provide? MonyWize provides a software product which enables people to enjoy wealth accumulation through debt elimination. Because frankly, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer have two choices. They can use their 30-year mortgage, and at the end of the 30th year, they will receive the deed of the property that they own, and they will not owe anything to the lender anymore, but they won't have accumulated any wealth apart from the value of the property. Whereas the alternative method, the MonyWize method, would be to follow the two parts of A, the blue line, let's pay the mortgage off in 16 3/4 years, and then B, let's follow the green line, and let's have a situation where they can accumulate a nest egg, a lump sum at the end of 30 years. And so the reality is, choice 1, house is paid for. Choice 2, house is paid for, plus an opportunity for an investment to guarantee and to garnish some wealth. Now, not everybody has a mortgage. We acknowledge that some people just have debts. So let's look at the box on the right-hand side there and click on debt. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer, they actually do have debts. They've got $25,000 on a car, which they're paying 5.99% interest. They have a second car of $10,000. Now, that wasn't such a good rate of interest. They're paying 9.99%. They also have some credit card debt at $7,500, and as we know, most credit cards are attracting quite a high APR. And then finally, they have some student debt of $15,000. Grand total, $57,500 in debt. Now, they still have the same monthly income of $7,200. I want to point out as well, for the astute of you who may have noticed, that their monthly expenditure in this case is $5,516. And the reason being is that the mortgage payment is now factored into account in this particular example. However, we don't take into consideration those payments as would be demonstrated if you hovered your mouse over the question mark. So here we have an interesting situation. Let's look at the effect. We have a nice graph. We have the red traditional saying that they would be paying off that loan in roughly 5 years. Let's look at it again. So here we are. We're showing those 4 debts. We're showing that they have $7,200 coming in as income, and we're also showing the expenses. And our software platform would expect Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer to be debt-free within 2.08 years. And that saves them a total of $6,478. I think you would agree with me that that $6,000 saving of paying off in a 2-year period instead of 5 years is a significant saving. You see, the software helps people to identify which debts that they should be attacking in which order. It uses sophisticated calculations and algorithms to assist people in looking at their income, looking at their expenses, looking at the difference between that, which is their discretionary income, and the best way to apply it. And so here we see that graph once again, the red line representing the traditional method, and the blue line seeing that they could pay off those debts, $57,000, in just over 2 years based on their circumstances. Once again, the time, the amount depends on your individual circumstances. And this is why you should perform your own free analysis. However, I would much rather pay $4,000 in interest than pay $10,000 in interest. And I'm sure that you would too. Let's talk a little about the MonyWize LLC. We are using a proven financial strategy to help clients achieve financial goals, and in doing so in a way that is more economical and swifter than they could possibly imagine. Our software is web-based, it's financial software, and it's designed to help people to enjoy the benefits of a debt-free lifestyle. And so what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that we can achieve wealth acceleration through debt elimination. Now, to become a customer, use the web address that belongs to the person who is showing you this presentation. It's their username.moneywise.com, because by using that unique web address, the system will then know who introduced you. There's a couple of things I want to say to you. I want to tell you that your data is private. It will not be seen by the person who has introduced you. It will not be seen by any MonyWise associate. Also, I want to say to you that the information and data that you will provide will be limited to amounts and to dates. We don't ask you for any details of anything specific. For example, we don't want to know which bank you use. We don't want to know your routing number. We don't want to know your account number. We don't want to know your credit cards. We don't want to know who any of your expenses are paid to. This calculation is wholly and exclusively based on dates and amounts and interest rates. And so from that perspective, the data is private because you're not giving any secret and proprietary information. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to you why I think you should sign up. If you think that Mr. and Mrs. Test Customer were average, and I think that they are not extraordinary, we can see that they saved $89,445 in mortgage interest by paying off that mortgage in 16 years instead of 30. We can see that they saved $6,478 in consumer debt interest because they paid it off in 2 years instead of 5 years. And so the total amount of interest that they saved was $95,923. The subscription to the MonyWise software is $29.99 per month. So that's an annual cost of less than $360. And so I'm going to ask you a question, and it's perhaps a rhetorical question, but based on these circumstances, would it be worth paying $360 a year to realize the interest saving? Of course, everybody's circumstances are slightly different, if not extremely unique. We have different incomes, we have different expenses, and we have different levels of debt. However, I would invite you to perform the free analysis to get an indication, an illustration of the typical results that you could expect by using the MonyWize software. I hope that you can see the benefit. I'm going to ask you, moreover, I'm going to challenge you, perform that free analysis. And don't forget that customers, if you use the software and you feel it's of no value to you, we do have a money-back guarantee period, and provided you cancel within that period, then we'll give you a refund, because we believe in this software, and we believe that when you begin to use the software and see the potential savings, that you too will see that MonyWize is a solution. It is your money. Use it wisely. Thank you for listening. My name is Ian Bratt. Thank you very much.